and Rick Hale. It is Mojo Monday, my friend. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. It is Mojo Monday, isn't it? One more
It
time, baby.
is.
We get to do this every week, and what a gift to ourselves and
Absolutely.
to the
And what a
universe.
gift to the world you just
Yeah.
gave us. I'm a little sad. This is our last chapter we're going through and Stop Settling, called Success Hacks, which I'm excited to get to. But thank you. I just want to publicly say thank you, because this was a gift of labor and a labor of love. And thank you, because it certainly has changed my life. And I know it has the potential to change so many, Rick. So thank you for listening to that little thing in the back of your head that, or in your heart, that said, I need to write this book. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Chapter 11, Success Hacks. The word hack. I want to start with this because I think a lot of people think the word hack is shortcut, like cheating. Like, how do I take the shortcut, or how do I hack the course, or hack the easiest path to get there? And what I think is funny is that's probably exactly what it means, except we think of it sometimes in a negative sense, but the reality is it can be a positive sense. So frame up hacks, the word hack, right?
Well, I would agree with you. I think the first impression of a hack is it somehow takes you straight to you play Monopoly and you hit that go straight to go collect $200 and you skip half the board. That's not really what the hack does. I think the hack keeps you from going from Monopoly to Sorry to Yahtzee to the other 5 games that don't get you to go. And then you realize I'm playing the wrong damn game. And so I think a hack allows you to eliminate big failures and big mistakes. You still have to do the work. I don't know anybody that, if I said, hey, the secret sauce to financial freedom is to own 20 rental houses, that you don't just have 20 rentals. You still have to buy the first and go through the process of lending and vetting and, leasing and managing people. And you get the gist.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump in. So, in order to find these hacks, which I love that you put this at the end of the book, right? Because if I'd read this first, I might have skipped the whole book, right? No, I'm kidding.
Don't plant any seeds, man.
There you go. So you said stay positive. And tell me about that.
Well, inevitably I think the concept of positivity is first and foremost is a loving thing for yourself. I don't know about you, but I think the human condition is that when you're in a negative state and you're angry or feel hurt, it's debilitating. And I think the ideal is to create abilitate or ability, not debility. So the idea is that if you're in a negative state, you're probably not moving forward and you're not focusing on the things that matter most. The other thing is we're all humans with humans all have this ability to attract energy. We're all magnets deep down, and we attract like kind and like energy. And if you're in a state of, debilitated state of negativity, that's who's coming, man. That's the energy. That's the frequency that's drawing energy. So when you stay positive, 2 things happen. One, you love yourself more, and it empowers you to move forward, as opposed to sitting around dwelling on the things that you may or may not even have capacity to control. And in that positive state, you attract more positivity. So it's a twofold scenario that really matters.
Yeah. Well, but Rick, does that mean I can't get mad, or I can't get upset, or fired up, or I might even go as far as say pissed off? Like, does that mean I can't be those things?
You can't deny your own emotional energy. I mean, I think that's a mistake too. I mean, if you bury things, I think they grow in the darkness. So I think it's exposing it to light, recognizing what it is, owning the emotion that goes with it, and then figuring out a way to unpack it and give it away as fast as you can when it's not serving you. So it's not don't do it. It's don't dwell and live in that space any longer than you absolutely have to.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Some of these, you talk about developing your communication skills and why communication is such an important thing. And you actually use the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Like, I don't know if you want just real quick with it. It's like, be impeccable with your word.
Don't take things personally. Yeah. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. They're so simple, Brett. I mean, it almost sounds second grade. And there's a guy who actually wrote a book. It's like everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten in life. And there's nuances of education and hierarchy of learning, but honestly, the 4 agreements have served me so well, because I also recognize often what I perceive others are doing to me really has nothing to do with me. And so
Yeah.
going back to shedding that negative energy when things don't go well, the question should be, did I have a play in it? How fast can I fix it? And if I can't fix it, have I done my best to fix it? And if so, let it be.
100%. And I just want to make mention, we actually did a whole Mojo series on that book. I think it's episodes like 73 through 76. So I'd
We
encourage
broke
you
it
to go back
down.
and look at those. Those are really, really good.
They're awesome. We went deep.
There's so many of these. I guess I'm going to ask you this question, because I usually ask you a question around the back of the chapter, but which one of these success hacks, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Which one of these success hacks do you think served you the best or the most in your life?
Well, staying positive was clearly the most impactful, because early on I figured out that the more positive I was, the better things resolved. Again, if you bring negative energy to a negative situation, it just doesn't counterbalance it, and it doesn't uplift the opportunity. Doesn't mean not being sincere and honest about it, but it's, staying positive is a huge part of it. And that just means higher level communication. That means listening better. That means, sharing, being impeccable with your words. So I think that's the one. And part of staying positive, by the way, is when things don't go well and you can't control or fix it, that you actually learn a lesson and you grow with it and through it. So I think tied to that is finding the silver lining, finding there's always good and bad. So
Let me ask you a question.
That's number one.
Something's popping in my head though, real quick. Like
Sure.
the difference between an optimistic person and a pessimistic person. Is there a barrier for somebody that's not overly optimistic to staying positive?
Well, I mean, I guess you could argue your DNA and maybe you're wired discerning. You could say a high C person looks more at the data and the facts, where the high I wants to be liked and loved. So they tend to overlook some of the facts, not to torture themselves and to get closer to that natural state of being. But I don't care who you are and where you land on the paradigm of personality. You have the capacity to intellectually dissect, the source of the energy and recognize the impact on yourself, and then take steps. And again, this may be your own recipe for overcoming, uncertainty, doubt, hurt, anger. This we don't want this to. The goal is not to take this session and convert it into therapy, but there are ways to communicate inside your own head and heart to work towards a more positive state in every single moment. And so it's your job to figure out what your love language is and how to overcome these things. But at the same time, there are proven strategies. And when you recognize that hurting people hurt, that's step one for me. Whenever someone attacks or comes at me aggressively and I feel, maybe unheard, or I don't feel honored or loved for who I am, and they're accusing, and, the first thing I tell myself, I reframe that energy like, hurting people hurt. Maybe they came from a space and a place where they're damaged and they're just expressing, and it's probably not me. It has some other thing happen somewhere way back in the back of their heart and minds, maybe last week, maybe when they were 4 years old, and that's causing this energy, and they don't know how to communicate well. And it helps me frame my energy effectively and not take it personally. So there's a quick example, but that's a learned skill.
I like it. It's like saying somebody that's not overly optimistic can't smile, right? Like, come on, everybody can smile.
You can still find the good in anything if you
always.
You might have to look harder. How about that? Rainbows and sunsets might not just light you up, but learn to like rainbows.
You don't walk
and
around smiling all day long, but some people do.
It's sad. Well, social media is the killer of that, because we all post our best moments ever. We never, you don't see me underneath my desk, trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Here's my second question. Success hack. Which one of these probably took the most effort from you? It just wasn't overly natural, right? Like you had to really kind of figure it out in your life.
Well, I talk about the power of generosity, and this is me being real and transparent.
Please.
I'd like to think that I'm a generous person every day, all day. Like that's the person I love most when I look in the mirror. Someone that if you call me, I'm there for you. If you need, financial support or help, if I've got it, it's yours. And I think of it as a gift, not a loan, because that creates weirdness in relationships. So there's another little tip to being generous. But what I had to get past, and I read this book that really made a difference, is by Andres Pira. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly, Pira. He wrote a book, Homeless to Billionaire, and it's a story of rags to riches. But there's a whole segment on how he was empowered by the concept of vibrational giving. And it really impacted me in a huge way. And I realized this is something I had to work at because of my discerning. I have a mind that constantly tries to analyze what is your motive? What are you trying to accomplish? Why do you need my help? And I don't mean necessarily time as much as, especially when it comes to writing checks and money. And for a while there, it was almost debilitating because I'd overanalyze even a panhandler on the street. I try to size up your physical demeanor. Are you just going to go buy drugs and alcohol, or do you really just need a cheeseburger and to get to the next station in life? And this vibrational chapter in his book about vibrational giving really freed my mind up. And it was almost a spiritual moment, because I looked, my prayer was, God, give me the courage and the wisdom to act on it. And what I realized, it's not my job to discern what they do with it. If you listen, vibrational giving is nothing. Here's the simplest way to describe it. It's when you feel compelled and your heart says, do something to help someone else, regardless of what it is. Don't let your brain get in the way of what your heart says do. And don't get hung up on how they're going to manage that resource or that gift. That's for them and for the higher power that, exists, if it exists in your mind, to discern. Your job is to listen to your heart. And it doesn't mean, late night infomercials, send all your money to something that's clearly, you get the gist. But it does mean if your heart says do it, man, the reward is in the gift, not in the outcome. And that was another reality that something that I've experienced. That's where the love is for yourself.
There's a story you tell at the end of this chapter that, maybe that's the hack. And I'm not going to share this story, but man, it's life-changing. And it kind of, it's about a funeral, right? And it's about things that like that. But are there any other stories that maybe just pop in your head that you'd share with us today around that whole concept?
Well, so there's two. I'll tell two really quick stories. One is vibrational giving, by the way, isn't always financial. I was at a street light driving to work one morning, and way off in the distance in a parking lot, an empty parking lot. This was like 6 a.m., like really early, and no one was around it was just a quiet morning. And you know what? It was a Saturday morning. It was not during the week. That's why it was so quiet. And there's a woman waving me over. I mean, she's got one arm in the air, waving aggressively. And I bet she was 40, 50 yards away. And I had no idea it seemed awkward and weird. Like I started, where my heart's like, I should probably go see what she needs or wants. My discerning brain started saying, why would an attractive woman be waving at me from a parking lot next to her car in the middle of the parking lot with no other cars around her? It was awkward. It was an office park where clearly everyone had gone home Friday night and no one was there Saturday. And I must have argued with myself at the light. I sat there for 30 seconds. I went back and forth. Is this a trap? Maybe she's trying to lure me in and they're going to rob or kill me. What if who knows? I made up all these scenarios. And finally, I just stopped the noise and said, she's waving. I should go investigate and help if I can. I drove over. Come to find out, Brett, she had her young child in the front seat in a car seat. The car was running. She had gotten out to quickly grab a bag in the trunk, and her BMW had an auto shut and locked her hand in the trunk. It was trapped. Her hand was half in the trunk. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, she's like
she couldn't get her hand out.
She couldn't get her, and her car was running. Her baby was screaming. It was one of those moments. I'm like, oh my God, this is a real trauma. And I'm like, she says, push the button. I'm like, of course she pushed I ran in, I hit the release button. She was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. And she gave me the biggest hug. And I'm just like, I wonder how many cars drove past, because they didn't have the vibrational energy in play, and their brain convinced them it was a trap, some kind of trap or a trigger for trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, thank God I just listened to my heart and quit making up stories about what could be or should be or might be. So that was huge.
So Rick, we've gone through this entire book at this point, and what I'm hearing in this story is stop settling. And meaning there's all kinds of stories that go in our head. There's all kinds of thoughts and limiting beliefs. And we create these conversations that may or may not be true. Yet, had you not pulled over to help that lady, that defining moment in your life would never have happened, right? So whether somebody's hearing this and for the first time or the 11th time as we've been doing this, I actually, and I'm saying this third party, I didn't write the book, nor do I have anything to do with it outside of you're my good friend.
Right.
This book has the potential to change people's lives. And I hope that we did nothing more than inspire you to take the time to sit down and go read it, because this is a incredible book, Rick. And I just want to thank you, one, as I said in the beginning, but two, commend you because it's a feat and you did it. And now your name is Rick Hale, author.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Mojo Monday.
Yeah. How many things do you drive past because you're simply not aware of the sign and the exit sign or the entrance sign? And the idea is to stop and make sure you're honoring the entire world and opportunity you live in. And so the goal is that you have your best life ever, one bite at a time. So thanks, Brett. I appreciate the opportunity.
Rick Hale, stop settling.
You stop settling. We're not settling.